So it seems that after black comfortably developed his bishop on f5, his problems are over. So it's what white can do is just to, at first glance, is just to play bishop d3, exchanging bishops. But of course, it gives no real chances for an advantage. Move knight g2 was also played here, trying to play knight g3 and then potentially, harassing bishop on g6. It also didn't bring much for white. So the main weapon, the main idea to fight for an edge in the opening was Botvinnik's g2, g4, which sounds quite ridiculous because white is just compromising its king side without getting any real advantage. But it occurs that black eventually has to move bishop on e6, thus giving up control of the b1 h7, because if black bishop goes on g6, that's Botvinnik's idea. Here it comes, h4, and black cannot take on h4 because queen b3, b6, then knight f3, bishop e7, and then simply just take on b8, and then knight e5, and black position collapses. So it's an amazing idea. So it's a sort of modern approach for chess, and that was Botvinnik's discovery in 60s. So there's no point for black to play h6 here, because then after h5 or even knight f3, black's position on the king side is compromised, and the king cannot castle there, while white king eventually after bishop d3, an exchange can go on castle long side and to be safe on b1. So black after g4 must go on e6, and here white tried number of moves. Botvinnik tried bishop d3, getting control of this on this important diagonal. Then he also tried h3 with Petrosian, and eventually Botvinnik's latest try was h4 that he tried against Spassky in 1969 in Leiden in Holland, and that was the most aggressive try, which also attracted my attention when I was preparing this line to play against Karpov in our matches. In fact, in 85 in game 21, I even tried this line. Although I was 2 points ahead, I needed a comfortable draw just to make another step to the title. But I still played h4, and in this game, Karpov demonstrated a great way of fighting this Botvinnik's aggressive approach. Played knight d7, h5, and not traditional knight gf6, which after f3, h6, bishop d3, and then c5, for instance, knight e2, gave white always a substantial advantage, because it just seems that white's pawns just got exposed. You could try to understand it, sort of in reverse angle. It's not just exposed pawn structure. White gained a substantial space, substantial advantage on the king side, and also the f5 square. That's a nice potential location for white knight could go there, or white bishop could retreat and then giving white's knight a potential to appear on f4. So the weakness, the king weakness, is completely illusory, because white king either castle or just simply go on g2, f1 and g2, or f2 and g2, and then there are no threats that black could create. So instead of giving white time to strangle black's position, Karpov after h5 played knight h6. An amazing move, looks also quite odd because black knight goes in the wrong square, but in fact it's putting pressure on the pawn on g4, and also keeping an opportunity to play f5 at one point, so attacking white's pawn structure. So I played bishop e2, Karpov played knight b6, and it happened that after, for instance, knight h3, which is a normal development here, black could play g5. so creating pressure on the king side, and just using the opportunity just to expose white's pawn's weaknesses. I played rook c1, and here instead of passive queen bishop d6, which gave me an edge, because then I could actually play knight h3 and developing the pieces and keeping positional advantage. Karpov could play knight c4, and then he had a very, very comfortable game, because after bishop takes c4, dc4, f3, now it's f5 as one of the obvious options, and white will have serious problems of finding a good safe location for its king. So knight h6 proved to be a very, very effective weapon against this Botvinnik structure, Botvinnik's aggressive approach with h4, h5. So also bishop d3 lost its popularity due to knight d7 followed somehow by h5. So white eventually switched to h3, which is also a quiet move with similar ideas. And for instance, after knight f6, knight f3, knight d7, bishop. No, sorry. In fact, this should be knight f6, bishop d3. Important to keep control on e4 square, preventing knight e4. Knight d7, knight f3, castle, king f1, c5, king g2. And that's Korshun and Karpov game 13 of their match in Merano, which was won by Korchnoi. Also Karpov had some better resources during the game, but it was still clear that white was pressing. So there are other ways of playing now. There are recent games where black tried to play knight d7 followed by g5, h5, trying to capitalize or trying just to use the defects of white's pawn structure. But still, g4 it's considered to be one of the main ideas that white employs in this line. But we have to mention that later, after e3 didn't prove to be so convincing, white switched to queen c2, which was considered to be very innocuous in 60s, because after g6, black still could develop bishop on f5. Here Korchnoi tried aggressive approach f3 followed by e4 with Spassky, but it was too risky. And in fact, all seemed to be very quiet for black before game Petrosian Belyavsky in one of the Soviet championships, when Petrosian played simply e3, bishop f5, queen d2. And now it seems that this move g6 could be a very important created in fact a very important weaknesses of black's king side, and the dark squares there, knight f6, f3, and black always had a lot of problems to be resolved, because white simply played g4, knight e2, bishop g2, and keeping a pressure on the king side. And one of the games that we'll look at later, it's a game I won quickly against Nigel Short at the Chess Olympiad in 1988. So look at this minor detail. White is playing queen c2, waiting for g6, then playing e3, bishop f5, queen d2. So g6, which is just a move, could have a great impact on the whole evaluation of this position, because now white has a chance of using these weaknesses on the king side and to create an initiative. So again, that is a very minor detail, but a very important nuance that is a core of the opening preparation in modern chess. So black didn't like g6 anymore and switched eventually to Geller's line with bishop d6, which seems to be, just at first glance, blundering a pawn, because after knight takes d5, black couldn't take on d5 because bishop takes d6, and bishop on c8 is hanging. Was queen on c2. Yeah. While if black gives a check on a5, then after knight c3, bishop takes a4, queen e4, check. White is taking back the bishop, having an extra pawn. But in fact, here was Geller's idea that he could take on f4 immediately, and then after queen e4 check, knight e7, knight takes a4, queen a5. White has to go king d1, and after bishop f5, black has a very, very comfortable game because it has more than sufficient compensation for sacrifice pawn. King on d1 will not find a safe haven in this life. So after bishop d6, white either play bishop d3, but then black tries to move knight e7. That's a big improvement. And again, black knight is well positioned on e7 because it protects f5 square and preparing bishop f5. After bishop d3, knight e7, black had a comfortable game, so white in its turn switched to bishop takes d6, queen d6, e3, trying to match knight e7 with bishop d3. Where black in its turn now played b6, trying to exchange bishops by playing bishop a6. So it's as you can see, it's a fight of both sides are concentrating these little nuances. But at the end of the day, all these nuances are developed to resolve the main problem of this opening, the main ground for the conflict, bishop c8. So white is trying to keep it from being exchanged or developed, while black is trying to develop it and ideally to exchange for white's light square bishop, which always proved to be the better piece in the Queen's Gambit decline. So bishop e7 is still very popular. It's being played by players, namely Vaganian and Lputian, and they reach quite good results in defending black's position. But very often white simply refrained from having discussions in Karlblatt structure and trying to stick with the original line, which is knight f3, knight f6. And now we should talk about white's bishop being developed on f4, not on g5, which creates totally different types of positions that were not part of the original concept of the Queen's Gambit decline, but made big theory and big part of the opening theory on its own. So in the next segment we'll talk about the position after move 4, where white bishop goes from c1 not on g5 but on f4.